Hola amigos de Multimedia, mi nombre es Valeria Cruz y el día de hoy me encuentro con Kingfisher, que nos va a hablar acerca de su libro, El manual de comida mágica para usar en caso de ataque. Kingfisher, thank you so much for being here and tell us about your book.
Oh, goodness. I'm delighted to be here. And this is a guide to defensive baking, which is about a young girl whose only magical power is working with bread and has to figure out how to use that to save her city when all of the real wizards are gone.
And what inspired you to combine magic and baking?
Uh, Honestly, I just had a random idea one day, but I always used to watch a lot of superhero cartoons when I was a kid, and they would have, these amazing powers, and I would get very frustrated because they would not use those. I could be like, you could solve this whole plot problem if Green Lantern would just do this, this, and this. And so I was always trying to come up with creative ways to use these powers. So when I was writing the book, I was like, what would be a really useless magical power, and how could you use that really just out of the box wild ways? And so I came up with baking and went from there.
It's a very creative idea. And what's the role of the food that plays in the development of the characters?
A lot of it is, since she is a baker, she thinks a lot about, how important good food is and about feeding people, because we all know people or are people who, if somebody comes to your house, they have to eat. Otherwise, they might starve, and, you can't possibly have that. So she wants to make sure that people are fed, but she also works with, like, gingerbread and makes cookies and things like that, and some of them come to life and are her allies in this big epic battle against the invading army.
Yeah, some of the scenes reminds me of the scene from Shrek. The when the gingerbread is alive and it's walking and everything's such a cool way. And you were just talking about the main character, Mona. How would you describe her? What's special about her?
Well, the thing is that she doesn't think there's anything particularly special about her. She has this magical ability with bread. She works in a bakery. She doesn't do anything important. So she thinks there's nothing special about her, but when push comes to shove, she manages to rise to the occasion when people who should be, the adults in the city, are failing to do so. And she is practical and takes charge and is like, all right, here is how we're going to do this.
Yeah, the world in this story has very original, fantastical elements. What was your favorite part of constructing this?
Coming up with a lot of the weird magical powers that are like small and useless, and figuring out how to use them. There's a character whose entire skill is making dead horses walk around, which sounds very dark, but I was like, that would be really useful if you're in a city and a horse keels over and you don't have cars or forklifts. You have to get rid of that. And so just practically thinking of little details like that would be useful, but that nobody really thinks about. It was just a lot of fun building the world up with things like that.
Yeah, I think what's really special about this book is that you combine different specific elements that turn into life, and you're like, well, this was kind of random, but this also at the same time makes sense with the whole story. And what would you say were the challenges of writing this story that has humor, that has action, fantasy?
I think one of the challenges was because it is, she is in a very scary situation, was not making it too dark and having it still have some humor to lighten it. But also there are points where she's hiding out, and that would be very boring to read about. It would, if you're just sitting in a room for days going, I'm really bored, that's not terribly interesting to read about. So I had to come up with things that you do when you are in hiding in a room for days, like experimenting with bread dough and making it fly around and things.
Yeah, and what was any type of bread or recipe that you enjoyed including?
Oh goodness, I am not actually a good baker at all. So I got books on it and a big KitchenAid mixer, and wrote it off as a business expense. And made and started baking, while I was writing the book, so that I could get the feel right. And I really like peanut butter cookies. Yeah, that was.
I would agree.
Yep.
Yeah. And well, finally, what's the message you want the readers to take away from this story?
I suppose it's that no matter how weird and useless you think your talents are, or how powerless you think you are, you really can affect the world in unexpected ways. That sometimes the world really hinges on somebody knowing how bread dough works, or things like that. There are so many cases of great scientific discoveries because somebody was really passionate about an obscure thing for years, that everyone was like, "What are you even doing with that?" So yeah, follow the thing you find really interesting, no matter how weird it is.
I love it, I love it. Thank you so much. Entonces, amigos de Multimedia, ya escucharon, por favor, si todavía no se han dado la dicha de tener este libro, esta es su señal. Y bueno, thank you so much for taking time and just like explaining and writing really this book. Y bueno, mi nombre es Valeria Cruz con imágenes de Raquel Sandoval.